we're gonna get straight into it because it's late. This is probably not gonna go too long, and it's also cold, which is a good thing because the air was on the fritz for a day. Um, Probably longer for a day, but I didn't know how to work the thermostat, so I didn't want to mess with it. I'm in someone else's house, so I'm not fiddling with their equipment that I don't know how to use. So, I just bravely suffered the heat. But now the cold air is firing on all cylinders. So, um, I hope people have enjoyed my previous live streams. Like I said, once I get monetized, which hopefully should be soon, there will be a production upgrade in the quality of my films. I mean, sorry, my videos, like the my pre-recorded content, and I'll start doing super chats instead of just these vertical live streams. I'll still do vertical live streams, but they won't be every day because I'm gonna also do the super chats and stuff like that. Once I get monetized, that is. I've actually had some dubious scammer actually reach out to me by email promising to get me monetized as if I'm not already about to be monetized, and critiquing like the quality of my videos as if I'm not already aware of those very things that he pointed out. However, it seemed very disingenuous what he was pointing out. From someone who's worked in sales, I know a script when I see it. So whatever he sent me was probably a script that he sent to like hundreds to thousands of content creators. Plus he was, and I'm not going to, this isn't racist to say, this is just statistical. He was located in Bangladesh, so the odds are he was a scammer anyway. We all know that there's a lot of scammers that come out of the the en- the endosphere, I guess you should say. um, but besides that, I will be monetized soon, thanks to you guys. So I appreciate it. And so the topic today is something that relates closely to my own experiences, and the question is, have you guys how far would you guys travel for a relationship? So that's the question du jour. Um, what's up, Moonlit? Uh, your your favorite TikToker says hello. Um, Daddy two at two says just brother one love from Manchester, UK. So yeah, so I'm interested what you guys think. How far would you travel for a relationship? Here's an interesting thing. My In high school, my French teacher, well, my last French teacher, um, senior year when I took French five, yeah, he had it was funny. He even though he was a French teacher, he was actually British, guys. And he told me, well, he told the class, he said, guys, if you don't remember anything else from this class, he said, remember this. And this had nothing to do with French, by the way. But he said, um, he said, when you're deciding whom to marry, he said, don't marry that person unless you are willing to cross the seas to be with them. He said, because that's what happened with him. He was British, but his wife to be was American. And he said, he literally crossed the Atlantic Ocean to be with her. He said, if the love isn't that you would cross the oceans to be with that person, that's probably not the person for you. Now, ironically, or unironically, however you choose to look at it, I don't really remember any much from that French 5 class, to be quite honest. However, I do remember him saying that, and the reason it hits home for me is that that's what I literally did. I literally traveled across the oceans to meet and marry my wife. Um, so I think the fact that I was willing to travel well over 8,500 miles to be with her and eventually get married shows that it was, genuine and well thought, and well thought out. So, so I posed the question to you guys: how far would you be willing to travel to be in a relationship? Um, Daddy 282 says, depending if she would be willing to travel the same distance. Relationships are about equality. Yeah, that's fair. He wasn't just posing. So my French teacher wasn't just posing this to the to the fellas. He was posing this to both the guys and the girls in the classroom. He was saying, hey, unless you're willing to cross the oceans to be with that person, that's how you know that that person is for you. So, what's up, my friends? Um, at El Bobby. So yeah, have any of you had long distance relationships or international relationships like I have? Um, that is the question. Pardon me while I get some water. So what's up to all the new people who've come into the chat room whom I haven't seen before? So again, guys, the topic is how far would you be willing to travel for a relationship? Only for instance, yeah, that's a hard question, but a good one. If the love is really real, then yes, anywhere in the world. Yeah. Well, I would say almost anywhere in the world. There's some parts of the world I'm not messing with. Like I'm not going to what's that part of North Mexico with all the with all the narco traffickers. I'm not going there. Um, Not going to North Korea. Probably not going to Iran. And there's allegedly some travelers who are also content creators that claim they've been to every country in the world. And I'm like, really? And that person's an American, so they also went to those other countries. I'm like, all right. But then some of the content creator supporters like, yeah, he went even to those places, maybe. But in any case, just as a point of pragmaticism, there's some places I wouldn't be willing to go to for a relationship, not because it's far, but because it's somewhere that would be extremely unsafe. Um, Dr. Jobber, what's up? Mullenfern says, "Oh no, I'm not going anywhere dangerous. I'll help them get to me. Antarctica would be interesting if you found a significant other there." Well, then that's the other problem. Is so say you do meet someone in a in in one of the countries that are considered an adversary, of the United States, or some other relative country where someone is from, right? It's pretty unlikely that customs would grant them a visa to come here to America to, as like a spousal visa, much less a travel visa. Um, and probably the only way someone from one of those countries would come here, is if they were claiming like political asylum or something like that. But yeah, it wouldn't even be worth investing in talking to someone from one of those countries. And especially if you work in government or military, you're definitely out of pocket if you start talking to someone from one of these adversarial nations, because you're probably talking to an operative. So I'm just speaking because I'm a veteran, so I would think, being that I held a top secret clearance at the time, if I was ha- just happened to start countries like Iran or North Korea or wherever, is pretty good odds that that person would be an operative. So it wouldn't be a good idea. Ukraine maybe because there are a lot of women in Russia that try to get here, but in any case, if you were like in the government and military, it would be more circumspect, right? Sorry, and Charlie says hi. I really doubt you live in Antarctica because the only people who are living there right now are researchers, like researchers and maybe some people and parts of our parts of our government. They aren't just people just living there, so I don't believe you. In any case, uh, so yeah, I haven't gotten much replies from you guys, at least relevant replies, other than from Moonlit Fern on the topic. So, have any of you been in long distance relationships or international relationships? If so, how far apart were you from your partner, significant other? Um, and if you aren't in one or haven't been in one, would you be willing to do so? Like, would you be willing to date someone who lives far? And when I mean far, they could be in a. I'm not talking about just in a another city. I'm talking about in another state, in another country, in another hemisphere. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Across the ocean. So, and for the new folks who are coming onto this platform, well, onto my channel, I won't be taking any requests unless you drop a cash app. So you might as well just fall back. Moonlit Fern says Thailand was a life change, but 17 years later, I have a happy home, going on 16 years together, four pets and a home, but it's a scary change. But the things we do for love, true. I would have never thought of living in the Philippines prior to 7 years ago, but when I first went there, I just it was awesome. I'm like, wow, this place is really nice. People friendly. I can get the food that I like. I can do the nerdy stuff that I like back home, like go to comic book conventions. All the malls are like how malls were great back in the 70s and 80s, and like you can find everything in the malls, and I can find comic book stores, and if I want to practice martial arts, there's places to do that. Um, it was like, you know, the wife is dope, and like just the women there in general were very feminine and pretty. Um, so yeah, it would never have been anything that crossed my mind at the time. Originally, I was just thinking, hey, I want a certain type of woman, and I won't get into that here, but it didn't it didn't it didn't register to me that the best way to do that would be to just stay on that side of the world. Um, but yeah, it was definitely a game changer. Moonlight, for instance, reverse question: how did you know she was the one, and how did you meet? Backstory for you. So we used OK Cupid, and we connected on there. We would chat and video chat and all that sort of stuff. And I told her I was already planning on going to the Philippines anyway. And it was ironic because she was living in Quezon City, and that's like the largest city in Metro Manila. And I was like, yeah, I'm actually going to Quezon City. I said I booked a hotel in Cubao, and she was like, she was saying that was actually the part of Quezon City where she was staying was in Cubao. I was like, oh snap! I was like, all right, so I said, so we meeting, right? She was like, yeah, and she was. I was like, just I said for the time I'm there at my hotel, just stay with me. And she was like, cool, whatever. And it was actually through another friend that I ended up getting a condo because my my ex girlfriend, who was also Filipina, I was still friends with someone from her office who was a dude, and he was like, man, he said, it'd actually be cheaper to rent a condo than to rent a hotel. I was like, you're serious? He's like, yeah. He said people do that all the time. I was like, oh, okay. So um, my wife, who was my then girlfriend at the time, we were getting really close, and I was like, well, hey, look, I'm actually thinking of just getting a condo instead of a hotel because I know it'd be cheaper, and why don't you stay there instead of you being so I said plus it'll be better because you'll basically take care of the place for me until I'm there, and you'll have more privacy than where you're currently at living with your friends. She was like, okay. So she found the condo for us, but it wasn't no longer in Quezon City. It was in another city within Metro Manila, Cubao. Oh, and for you guys that don't know, people often say Manila like it's like one place. Same thing people do with Tokyo. Both Tokyo and Manila refer to an entire region, not just a city. So Metro Manila is actually made up of like almost 26 cities. All right, Manila. There is a Manila city within Manila, which is the capital. Um, but the whole part of Metro Manila is referred to as the National Capital Region, and it's comprised of multiple cities and municipalities. And so Mandiliong, which is where she decided to get a place because you know, it was cheap, but it was still kind of a luxurious sort of condo. At the time, it was like the first one they had. Then there was like a live-in experience where the condo was as built uh, into a mall, which has become a trend now. If For people who follow like real estate and stuff like that, but I think this was the first one there in the Philippines, and they've expanded it, and now they have other ones owned by the same people there, which is SM or SMDC. So she picked that spot. But she started staying there, and when I came there, it was like I already had a home, a home when I got there. So that's how we bonded, and once I was there, we clicked, and that was it from there, I guess. Only for instance, because I went to Japan first but couldn't afford it. Uh, you could now, because it's, if you're saying you couldn't afford Japan, you were probably referring to Tokyo or Osaka. Outside of Tokyo and Osaka is very affordable. Like right now, they are trying to give away homes because there are so many empty homes in the rural prefectures of Japan. Like you just need some money to renovate them, but these houses are practically free. Like like they're selling for like 1,000, 5,000, $10,000, something like that. And then you might just have to do a little bit of renovation. But they are desperate to get people back into the countryside of Japan, because you know, as a whole, the 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 national population is shrinking so much so that Japan has created their own. The Japanese government has created their own dating app to connect people together for the purposes of marriage. That's how bad it is. Like the Japan government basically made their own version of Tinder, but to get people to actually marry, not just to hook up. And like I said, they're practically giving away these homes in the Japanese countryside, so it would be very affordable now. And if you went there, like I said, you where you were saying it's unaffordable is the Tokyo metro area. That's not affordable. That's expensive. Oh yeah, he said so. That's cool, man. That's awesome. Oh, I was talking in Tokyo, but that was 2006. Yeah, I figured it was Tokyo. Uh, but yeah, of course, everyone wants to stay in Tokyo because if I stayed in Japan, I would want to stay in Tokyo. But there are actual affordable places in Tokyo if you know where to look. That's what comes in handy is knowing some having Japanese friends there that can give you the insider information. But it's some affordable places in Tokyo, but not compared to the countryside. The countryside, like they're practically giving away homes now just to get people to move back into the all these um, areas of the country that have been largely abandoned because all the young people move away and go to Tokyo or maybe go to Osaka. Some even wealthier ones go to like Hawaii and places like that. But I've thought of Tokyo. If Andy Boy says hi, what's up? So yeah, I would have definitely considered Japan. Before I met my wife, there was a girl whom I had was talking to in Japan, but she lived in Fukuoka, um, and sh I wasn't familiar with the city, so I didn't get that interested in her, which was a shame because after I found out more about the city, it actually sounds pretty nice, and the girl was rather pretty, and she seemed nice, and she spoke, clear enough English that we could talk back and forth. Only for instance, everything was very compact, lots of hidden, amazing noodle shops and amazing arcades. Oh yeah, that's why I want to go back and check out a lot of stuff I haven't seen when I was there. Since my visit last time was very brief. It was just one of my little visits between visits. Like I'll make a trip out of a trip on my way to somewhere else. I just do a very long stopover in another country and make it into a brief trip there. But yeah, I did want to check out the arcade games. I did go to a ramen noodle shop though. I definitely did that. One of those authentic ones where foreigners could order food because they just do the thing where you have like the little uh the thing outside where it just shows all the different things on the menu and you just pick it, and then you pick the thing from the little sort of vending machine looking thing, and you just wait for them to bring it out to you to eat. So I got to have some authentic tonkatsu ramen. And I think tonkatsu is like the most common type of ramen. But yeah, I would definitely Japan is definitely a place I would venture for a relationship. Um, Japan, Philippines, Thailand. Not so much Indonesia and Malaysia. I could date someone there, but I couldn't see myself like living in either of those countries. Indonesia is the largest Muslim country in the world, um, and I'm not Muslim, so that would kind of be a cultural issue unless she was like um, Chinese Indonesian or something like that, or Chinese Malaysian, because there's huge populations of Chinese in Indonesia and Malaysia, and many of them are actually very wealthy and live like royalty over in Southeast Asia, which was sort of the whole thing they kind of talked about a little bit in that corny movie that came out a long time ago, Crazy Rich Asians, which they're supposed to be doing a sequel to. I knew I didn't want to watch that movie, but in any case, the depiction is kind of real. Like there are Chinese people in Southeast Asia that live sort of like royalty, and I also know that a lot of Southeast Asians are dislike them heavily because of that. So this is yeah, guys. There are vending machines in Tokyo, like Kabukicho and Roppongi, places like that, where they sell things like used underwear and stuff like that, and vending machines, stuff like that. But I just want to go back to the vending machines to get the capsule toys. I forgot I didn't do that last time, and I was like, oh, I should have one of those capsule toys. But Thailand now is doing vending machines, but nothing dodgy. Yeah, I mean, a lot of places over there do vending machines for things outside of just like snacks. Even here, up until a certain amount of time in America, like they started experimenting with different types of vending machines. Like, remember the vending machines here that would have like sandwiches and soup and all sorts of stuff like that. McDonald's had experimented with a vending machine at my alma mater at University of Maryland. They actually gave you hot fries. That was awesome, but they didn't keep it. It was only there for like a year, maybe 2 years, and but like so everyone was getting it between classes, right? It was I think at the business school, and so everyone was going up to the business school to get like these McDonald's fries from the vending machine in between classes. Like it wasn't like just cold fries that you had to like microwave. Like you put the money in and it actually started cooking your fries in that little vending machine. I wish they had kept that. Or I wish they started making more of those, but it was an experiment. I guess they had a contract with my university at the time to have it there. I'd be interested in if anyone knows of any other universities or hospital settings or business settings where they've had those McDonald's fries vending machines. But I kind of think my alma mater was the only place that had it at the time, which was like about 23 years, but yeah, about 22 years ago. Moment, for instance, I always wanted to go to Bhutan. That was my dream and still is to visit, but you can't become a citizen there. I'm not even worried about being a citizen. Like even in the Philippines, I would, as long as I can get my permit, if I can just get the permanent residence card, I'm good. Like people have already told me if you get like as a foreigner, if you get like the permanent resident status in the Philippines, you're kind of treated sort of like a privilege. You still have like a privileged status there. You like you're treated better than a national, right? Um, but you have more rights than just a foreigner visiting the country. So it's sort of like a privileged status to have as a permanent resident status. I know they have something like that in Thailand as well, permanent resident status. Although I don't know what the differences are between it in the Thailand and permanent resident status in the Philippines. Yeah, but Bhutan is on my list. Like pretty much every country that I haven't already visited yet in Southeast Asia is on my list, except for Myanmar. That's on hold right now until they get their their little military coup straightened out. I'm only friends. Yep, I got a Marvel collection and a small poem. POE. CC Motion said, "What's up, man? How you been? Doing well, thank you." Only friends says Pokemon and Naruto figures from these new machines. Most I give to my nephew. Well, no, I got it. So I'm gonna keep them for myself. I used to get stuff from my niece and nephew all the time, but it seemed like they didn't really appreciate it. Well, they didn't really care about the comic books I got them. Sometimes they did like the other stuff that I got them, but now they've become so entitled. It's not being fun giving them anything. So I don't really buy them anything. The last time I bought them something, I bought my niece the Green Lantern ring, and my sister took it from her because I think she liked it more for herself. But she also said it was just too big for my niece's finger. But that was probably like one of the last things I got them. Most of the stuff I buy now is strictly for myself when it comes to like, comic book type stuff or toy collecting. Mullen, for instance, hi CC, stick around and like and share. He almost monetized now. Yeah, very close, guys. Very, literally very close. And there's two levels of like monetization. There's the first level where you can get to do the super chats, get the do this. You can have the super thanks, um, and you can promote your own merchandise, stuff like that. That's the first level. Then the second level is when they start displaying ads. Um, in your video content, whether the long form videos or your short or the YouTube shorts. So that's the second level. That will come probably much quicker than the first level of monetization, just because like the way it works with the compound, not compound interest, but the compounding of like how quick it is to build after you reached a certain level. So I do remember Columbia and Jeff. Yes, I do. So again, so for people just coming into the topic, like Moonland Fern was saying, the topic is how far would you travel for a relationship? You know, and I already said that this hits home for me because this is something I actually did. So I'm not just speaking hypothetically here. This is something that I've actually done and can speak on to other folks who are planning on doing so, or who already did the same thing or are planning to do it or have misgivings about it. So, because I mean, there's always going to be a bit of trade-offs with any relationships. Is based on what you're willing to accept, what you're willing to give up. So, like like I said, for my own matter, I traveled 8,500 miles away from home to be with the person I wanted to be with, and it was for multiple reasons. One, I had a huge thing for Asian women, and I started knowing more about Filipinas who were very open to dating Americans, especially brothers. um, and I had actually dated someone before I met my wife, but that didn't work out. No biggie. She's moved to Dubai and you know, just having fun there. Cool for her. Uh, she might be referred to for a lot of people going to the Philippines as this your starter girlfriend. Like a lot of people don't end up sticking with the starter girlfriend when they first either travel to the Philippines or start dating a Filipina overseas. You might have what you call your starter girlfriend. Like how you have a starter home, and then once you have more income, you move into like a bigger home, which that's sort of the same thing. Like you have your starter girlfriend in the Philippines until you move on to the person you really uh, bond with. So, but so the other reason was that Baltimore, and I've put this in multiple videos, is not known for having very attractive women. And I don't, if there's any people from Maryland or Baltimore or just the DMV area, they can I think they can hold testament to this. Baltimore's not known for having attractive women, and the women of my own persuasion I wasn't very attracted to anymore for different reasons I don't want to get into here unless people are actually very curious about it. But that was another reason, and so that's when I started using OkCupid, was to find women outside of my community that I found more attractive and more dateable. And so I've been on a few dates. Emily, for instance, shout out Baltimore, dang. Yeah, so I went on a few dates. There was a Asian psychiatrist. I was I was going. I've started to date, but it just didn't connect because she was in Baltimore, and she's one of those transplants. You know how people who don't aren't from your city love the city more than the locals. She was one of those people, so that's where we didn't vibe. Then there was another Asian chick. I don't know whether she was. I don't remember whether she was Chinese or Korean. She was one of those two. She was a college professor, and we kind of clicked a little bit. Like I saw, we went on a few dates in Colombia. Um, but she was just like, I'd rather just be friends or whatever. I'm like, all right, that's cool. Because it's not like we got so close that I would have been hurt if if it didn't work out. Uh, there was one guy who pretended, who I thought was a woman, but that's because OkCupid at the time. I hope they fixed this on OkCupid, by the way. On OkCupid, they didn't have a selection for like people who are non-binary, trans, queer, whatever. So I never met the person. I saw their profile or whatever, and luckily I went through more than one picture. Always make sure the person you're looking at on a online dating app has more than one picture. If not, that's a red flag. But anyway, so the he she whatever, they had several pictures up. So I was like, excuse me, are you trans or whatever? And he said yes. I was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, well, I respect that, but that's not how I swing. So they didn't get offended. That was cool. Um, um, then there was a few Tinder swipes. Now the Tinder swipes, that was all like just sexual. Like one woman, I think she was either married and separated from some guy. I don't know what it was, but she was just down to hook up. I'm like, okay. Then there was another woman I met on OkCupid, and anyway, that's how I got my interracial dating on, was through OkCupid, because like I said, within my immediate community it was mostly just black women, and Baltimore black women are not what I find dateable. I'll leave it to the imagination why not, but if you've ever watched red pill content, it wouldn't be hard to figure out. And Baltimore isn't the only place. Baltimore, Philadelphia, Detroit, places like in New Jersey and St. Louis. Most of these women are way too damn masculine and just not attractive to me. So I took to online dating to find people from other communities, even so far as overseas, just so I wouldn't have to date people in Baltimore. The other problem was, and I'll get to the comments in a section. Then the other issue was that a lot of these same women, these women either my age or maybe even a little bit younger, all had kids or whatever. And I had a typical ratchet female sister who was like, "Well, at your age, you're only going to date women who have kids anyway." Well, she's only saying that because she's a baby mother. So of course her little ratchet ass would say that. And she was like, "And you shouldn't be really dating anyone too young anyway, blah blah blah. Besides, you might end up liking these women anyway, despite them having children. You shouldn't just tell, you shouldn't just write all these women off just because they have children." Again, she was clearly projecting her own thoughts about her own issues. So I didn't argue. It was not worth getting into an argument with someone who's barely sober. I won't get into her personal issues, but I'm not going to argue with someone who's barely sober, a high school dropout, has two bastard children, and telling me whom I should date in an area known for not having very attractive women. So in any case, I was like, "Yep, you're." I didn't say anything. I just silently put in my application for my passport. This is back in like 2015, 2016. Got that. A year later, I was traveling and couldn't tell me couldn't tell me shit. Let me get back to the comments, guys. I can see what you're saying. I just don't know what you're trying to ask me. I don't really reply to people who say, "Can you ask me a question?" I'm kind of a I'm I you know let me phrase this nicely. So I don't know if people have ever watched the show Big Bang Theory. The one of the stars of the show has some sort of mild autism, so he doesn't respond well to conversational implicature. He takes everything pretty literally. So when people say, "Can I ask you a question?" he'll tell you, "Well, you just literally just asked me a question," and that's what you just did. I kind of agree with him on that because it is annoying when people say, "Can I ask you a question?" when they're literally asking you a question in the process of asking, "Can I ask you a question?" I find that very annoying. But that aside, I only take questions if it's germane to the topic. If you're not asking a question that is germane to the topic, then drop a cash app. I do these live chats for free, and I don't want people asking me irrelevant questions just because they have some sort of thought spasm. So to keep things germane to the topic, um, that's what I do. I'll say contribute to if you want to contribute to my channel, then I'll answer any questions you have as long as they're like appropriate. But if it's not a question that is relevant to the topic, then I'm not going to answer it. So that's your answer. Thanks, X2AM. And Moonlit Fern says, that sounds very American. That's why I was into Asia, because the loyalty, culture, and love and respect is unmatchable. But again, just my opinion of why I flew from America to Asia for real love. Same, man. Like, I, one of the biggest reasons for me traveling is not just for the women, because everyone thinks the whole passport bro movement is sex tourism, and that's not the case. First, I'm glad you mentioned this. So I want to clear this up right now, and I'll probably have to clear this up on multiple other live streams as well. And I've talked about it in some of my pre-recorded videos. Passport bro does not equal sex tourism. For one thing, sex tourism has existed long before the passport bro movement. Okay. Two, the roots of the passport bro movement actually go back to the Black World War II veterans. A lot of these guys ended up dating women in Europe and in the Pacific Rim, and um, ended up bringing them back to America, or even staying in those countries. I mean, it was so well known back then that it was actually in a old old Jet magazine. Jet magazine was, like, for folks who don't know, a magazine by Black Americans that's been around for, like, I don't know, like 70 years or so. And it was literally an issue back in the 50s of that Jet magazine that said, "Do Japanese women make better wives?" This was in the 50s. So this was the root of the passport bro movement. But one of the things about it was, yes, looking for love in other countries, but the other part was that brothers could find better experiences, better worldly experiences outside of America. And it's true today as it was back then, because um, you, we're not treated as our race in many other countries. If anything, we're just treated as Americans, which can be good or bad. But we're we have a higher status worldwide than what we have here. So that's the other reason for a lot of the passport bros. You can go to places where there's a lower cost of living, you're treated better, you find better women. And I'm just going to say this flat out: women in other countries are more attractive than Americans. It's so funny that you have these little guys here. We call them plantation bros, by the way. These plantation bros who are always like, "Oh, you guys have to travel outside your country to find women, blah, blah, blah." Well, no, first of all, we choose to. That's number one. And two, the guys who can travel overseas tend to have more income than the average guy. And third, a lot of these women in these other countries look way better than the average female here. The average female here is overweight, and her box has been used more than I'm not gonna go there, but yeah, here you getting a overweight woman who with a recycled box, um, and often that box isn't fresh. But in any case, it's better overseas, and sometimes it's better. You can go overseas to get better better perspective on life, and it might be better for you mentally to be overseas and get away from people that are stifling your your um your growth here. And that sometimes can be family. For me, it's definitely family. So anyway, Miller123 says, "I agree. Women have become too masculine." Yeah, a lot of these women have, and it's not even an exaggeration. Like, I literally hear a lot of black women who just are like, their voices are masculine. Like, their voices don't even sound feminine. Like, "Hey, what's up?" And then if there's one thing they can say that will absolutely turn me off, is when they say bro. Any chick that's calling me bro, I don't even want, don't talk to me. Then they say they're the most unprotected group. Yeah, okay. I thought you guys were independent and strong and all that dumb shit. You don't need protection. You're strong, right? Go do your Black Widow thing, your Dora Milaje, right? So that's how I feel about it. Like, here's another example. I was literally at a bar a few days ago with my homeboy. He's sometimes in some of my pre-recorded videos. If you want to check those out, he's sometimes in those videos. He doesn't show his face because he has a high, he his career it wouldn't be good. So anyway, um, you know, we went to happy hour at this little Jamaican spot around the way, and we're vibing. It's The food is good. The food is way too expensive, but that's besides the point. He's I don't drink, he's knocking back a few drinks. I'm just there for the ambiance, have some have some Caribbean food because I'm never gonna turn down Jamaican food. um, and we're chilling. There's a lot of these big backs in there. I hope all these little big back middle aged women, black women, up in this spot, and this is one just sitting right next to me, and she keeps complaining about the oxtail tacos. Yes, they have oxtail tacos. It actually looked delicious, but they brought her some, and she said, "I wanted hard shell taco." I'm like, your fat ass don't. Anyway, let me stop. So she was like, "Do anybody else want these? Do you want them?" Like, no, I'm good. And the reason I didn't want them because it had cheese on it. I don't eat cheese. I know. Yeah, I don't eat cheese, guys. But anyway, so she was say little side comments, and she would be speaking to me as if I had any interest in talking to her. I'm like, I have no interest in you. Plus, you gotta clearly see the wedding ring here, right? Like, she clearly, because she's sitting to the left of me, so she clearly has to see my wedding ring. And then at one point, like when they're about to go, she gets like a little doggy bag or whatever, and they bring out a little thing to put her food in. And she's like, she keeps asking the bartender, can she extend, put it closer to her because she couldn't reach it. And she's like, you get this for me? She didn't ask me, can I get it? She was like, you can get this for me. She literally grabs my arm. No, she literally grabs my arm and pulls it to the little containers to grab her food. To be nice, I grabbed it and gave it to her, but I almost, because she was a woman, I let it go. But I almost was like, if you don't get your motherfucking hands off me, I, and my homeboy was like, man, I would have told her. I was like, nah, I was trying to be nice, but I was like, the nerve, this bitch just grabbing me. Like, what if a guy couldn't just grab a woman's arm and ask her to, get something? That would be all sorts of sex harassment and stuff like that, right? If a guy did that to a woman, like the audacity of her putting her hands on me. Plus, you see, I'm a married man. I was like, I was just some like, and like again, it's not like she was cute. You can get away with that when you're in your 20s and you're cute. When you're in your 40s or 50s and you're like 200 pounds, bitch, no. But let me get back to the comments. Nick says, "What's one of the worst experiences you had with a woman, whether she said or did?" What do you mean, like? Because I mean, I've had, like most people, I've had a few bad experiences. I've actually put one on. I talked about one in video too. When I said, uh, I talked about when I had one of my red pill experiences. I can talk about that, but let me get through the comments first. Yorichi says, "I guess I will lead the stream since I don't know the rules." There's no rules. Generally, this live stream has a topic. That's what I'm saying. So we're sticking to the topic of how far would people travel for a relationship, for real love, stuff like that. That's that's generally only the rule. All the other rules are something laid in by YouTube. And if you're a child, then I really wouldn't want you in this stream anyway. I don't find it appropriate for minors to be talking to adults unsupervised. Moonlit, for instance, Nick, finding out my 3-year old son wasn't mine. Oh shit. Hence why loyalty and respect is real. Oh snap. That's a big one. That's a big one. Man, I'd have bounced so quickly. Man, man. This is why, people in the red pill space have argued that there should be mandatory paternity testing. There was actually a move to do so in Jamaica, and they stopped short of it because the rate of I forgot what the actual word what the word is used for cuckolding men, but they said in Jamaica is known to be like over 50% of children are not born, um, you know, born into these relationships aren't the the uh, the the husband or the boyfriend isn't actually the biological father. And so I think the Jamaican government was fearful that it could cause a lot of domestic violence in their culture if they instituted a paternity testing, knowing that Jamaica is known for having a lot uh, of that incidents. I forgot what the term is for that, for those sorts of births, but they had almost did that there. And um, yeah, that's another reason why I wouldn't have wanted to get married in Maryland. In Maryland, and family law here, even if a even if your wife goes outside of the marriage to have children, and I mean, that those aren't your children, like you get paternity testing and all that, you are still legally bound to take care of those children. Even if you get divorced, you still have to pay child support on children that aren't even biologically yours because they were had by your wife. So there are no fucking incentives in the US to marry these broads, particularly not in my state. And there's a few other states that do that too. But the audacity to say that a guy who was cheated on by his wife and she has children by another goddamn man, you are still legally responsible for taking care of that bastard. Fuck no. Moonlit, for instance, preach a contrarian. I'm not for sex tourism, but medical tourism and education is so cheaper. Yeah, so I've considered going to school overseas as well. I was thinking about it in the Philippines, but then you gotta get all these clearances and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know if it's worth it. Plus, they consider like American degrees more um, to be of a higher status than their own university. So I would probably just stick with that. But it is way cheaper. Himula, for instance, he said, "LOL." Blame social media for that though. They idolize other women instead of finding love. And Nick says 3 years, man. I'm sorry. I know that probably hurts. You didn't deserve it. Yeah, that's rough as heck, man. That's crazy. So let me get back to Nick's question. So he said, "What's one of the worst experiences you've had with a woman, whether it's something she said or did?" So there. So here's one. This was in college, right? So when I was in college, I went. My friends and I were partying, and we went over these uh, these girls' dorms, and we were there, and everyone was drunk, and we was all chilling, and one of the girls who lived there at the time, I thought she was really pretty, and because I was drunk, I was bold enough to tell her that. Stupid. Never tell women they're cute. But anyway, not unless you're actually with them. But she, I was just like, hey, I'm really feeling you. um, being drunk Don Dewan, right? And I was like, I would like us maybe to like hang out and stuff. Um, and she was like, yeah, she was like, yeah, I consider it or whatever. She was just kind of just trying to be polite. I was like, all right, that's cool. And so after I did my little drunken Don Dewan thing, I was about to leave, and then her roommate, this a Spanish chick. So by the way, the chick I was trying to talk to was a black chick who just kind of like she didn't play me cheap, but she was like just pretending she was interested just to be polite. But her little chubby Spanish friend, looking like J Lo swallowed another J Lo. uh, she was she was like, "Hey, what's up? You want to stay here?" Blah blah blah. She was like literally like she was literally like physically pulling me into her bed, and I'm like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm cool." I mean, because for one, I just hollered at her homegirl who was a roommate, and two, she was fat. I wasn't feeling her. And three, she was drunk. So I was like, nah, I'm good on that. So she was just like, whatever. And then her ass passed the fuck out. So I'm like one of the last people leaving their crib because my homeboys had already left, I think. And so I left. And I hear the next day or 2 days later that the the the, the Spanish roommate was saying that I was, you know, feeling on her and trying to have sex with her while her roommate was in the room, passed out, and that and then before her, I tried to make out girl, with the other girl. I was like, that's bullshit. And I was telling my homeboys, I was like, y'all don't believe that. That's some bullshit. That clearly. I said I was not into Maria and into what was it Maria, whatever. I can't remember if she pronounced it Maria or Mariah. I was like, I wasn't into Mariah's fat ass. I was like, I was into Nikki or whatever her name was at the time. And I was like, Nikki was just like, whatever, whatever. And she went to sleep. I said, and when I went to leave, Maria was trying to pull me into bed with her. And I told her no. And she got mad and just went off to bed. I said, that's what really happened. And my friends were looking at me like, I don't know. But then something similar happened afterwards. So the same girl who, the same black girl who I was interested in, one of my homeboys was trying to talk to her too, and she was doing the same thing to him that she did to me. And he was a way more smoother cat than I was, right? Like he laid way more pipe around that campus than I did. But even she played him. I was like, damn. I said, Wayne. She didn't like Wayne. I'm like, okay. I said, she didn't like Wayne. I guess she just don't like any of us. So I was like, if anyone would get play, he would. So she did the same thing to him. And then the drunk ass Spanish girl Maria, she then hit on one of my other homeboys, not the same one, another one when we were coming back from a club, because she came to our place because we were all renting a house together at the time. And he was like, "Fuck it." He smashed because he told us the day after he told us that following morning. He was like, "Yeah." He said, Maria was like hitting on me, whatever. He was like, I was just like, "Fuck it." And he was like, I smashed, and she was like, I'm not gonna use his real name here. He was like, "So and so, you think it's the bomb?" Like I was like, "Yo, what?" I was like, "Yo, stop playing. You smashed." He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "All right." I was like, "Well," I said, "that kind of vindicates what I was telling you guys, right?" So that was one of the worst experiences for them lying on me like that. But as far as if you were referring to like my worst experiences as far as with a girl in a relationship, I would say, the typical stuff like getting cheated on and then them trying to gaslight me like it didn't happen. Typical dumb shit. Kosei just joining the big back hard shell taco story. Funny as fuck. Yeah, that's man. I told my homeboy, I was like, ain't nothing but big backs up in here. And I told him, I said, see, I don't know about you guys, but here's the thing. If I go to a restaurant and just about everyone in there is fat, I know that's a good restaurant. Because you don't want to go somewhere to a restaurant and everyone's skinny and trim and fit like me. I want to go somewhere where everyone looks like they got gravy pumping through their veins. Like that's how I know it's a good place. Like the very first time I went to Five Guys, this was in 2008, and I know I'm late because I'm sure people had probably went to Five Guys before 2008, but that was the first time I went there, and literally everyone in there looked they they needed like blood medicine or something. Like everyone in there was big. I'm like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a good. Yeah, these burgers must be good because everyone in here is fat. And true enough, those Five Guy burgers hit like a mug. But yeah, man, yo, everyone sitting at the bar last week at this little Jamaican happy hour was big backs. Like I was like, they look like I was telling my homeboy, I was like, it looked like they all lined up to take down the quarterback. So he even posted something on his Facebook talking about all these big backs. And I think one of his friends or cousins or something got mad at him saying, "Why you always talking about fat people?" But nah, yo, then they be thinking they look good, and it's only in Baltimore that they think they look good because the men have such low expectations, especially the ones who don't go anywhere. Like they've just come to accept that these women pop out babies and start looking like linebackers. You got the nerve to be saying she don't want some soft shell tacos. She only wants hard shell tacos. First of all, bitch. Yeah, yeah, but first of all, bitch. Real tacos aren't even hard shell. That was something invented by Taco Bell. The hard shell tacos come from tostadas. The genuine tacos are soft shell. So whatever. And actually, Taco Bell in the '70s did used to sell tostadas, but in any case, yeah, gonna get mad saying why don't they? And they was like, well, they didn't have those taco shells at the time. So she was sitting there complaining about that, and I mean, it still sounded good, like oxtail tacos. That's actually a pretty good fusion. Um, because I almost bought those myself, but I got wings instead. But I was telling my homeboy, I was like, man, I should try these oxtail tacos. And I was like, oxtail pasta sounds good right now too, because I had just saw it on one of those little Facebook things with like food and stuff. I get a bunch of those on my Facebook feed, and I was like oxtail pasta. I was like, that sounds delicious. And my friend was like, that sounds like some sort of fusion thing. I was like, I don't know, but I was like, they have it on the menu here. But yeah, all these little big backs sitting there ordering oxtail tacos and complaining and shit. Then the other ladies are gonna lie, sitting right next to her saying, "We ordered ours an hour ago and they never came out yet." So you've been sitting at the bar literally an hour while you saw everyone else get their food and just like, man, stop lying. But whatever. Moonlit First is good on you for just being a real one. Yeah. Dude, I'm doing my hand motions because that's how people talk on the East Coast. We use our hands. Sorry that you don't know about that. Like, if I really wanted to be in my hand motions, I would be doing it like a sergeant, like when they do this. So you're gonna say that. So, JP, go to the army, go to the Marines, and tell every freaking drill sergeant that they're gay when they start doing this in your face, and see how well that works for you. Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. You probably wouldn't even qualify for the Marines or the Army because you're too fucking stupid and you're too fucking out of shape. Exactly. So anyway, Cyrus Hills is if you're looking for something traditional that equals overseas, it really does. Now, don't get me wrong, you can find traditional women in the U.S., but I don't know if the effort, if 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 the if the effort is worth the I'm sorry, I'm not sure if the search is worth the effort, right? Like if to find like traditional women, you're gonna have to go into these enclaves where it's mostly like immigrant communities or people from very conservative traditional backgrounds like the Quakers, the Amish, the Hutterites, the Romanis, who are sometimes called gypsies, but they hate that name. They just call them Romani. They don't like being called gypsy. But the Romani people, the Hutterites, the Quakers, the Amish. The only problem is most they only pretty much date within their own cultural groups. Also the Mormons, they're very traditional. But even still, it's not even worth it because, like I said, depending on the state that you're in, family law doesn't work for men in America. Like family law is just insane. It used to be like 60, 70 years ago that in family law, presumably when a marriage dissolved, the children by default usually went to the father because usually the father was the one who could provide for those children financially. That kind of makes sense, right? But now instead they go to the women, and then the father then just has to kick out child support to them instead of him just having the children. It's usually the house is usually his. He's usually the breadwinner. It kind of makes sense that the children would just go with the father, as it used to be the case about 70 years ago. So, whether you're talking about family law being against men, whether you're talking about these modern women, it doesn't pay to get into relationships here. And I want to knock the women who are in the chat and follow me because I'm sure some of them are cool as well. Obviously, when I'm making these statements, these are general statements. These aren't universal statements. I can never make a statement that's universal because I don't have the data to support making a universal statement like that. Because, well, the problem is you can't have data to make a universal statement like that. I can only talk on probabilistic trends, right? And it's the often the juice isn't worth the squeeze when it comes to seeking out these sort of long-term traditional relationships in America. And if I want to dip into my behavioral research bag, I can say that um, traditional relationships, traditional marriages tend to outlast conventional, the more um, modern ones. So, um, if anything, there's a case for prearranged marriages. Nick says I got a strong topic including women, relationships, male rights. Should I ask it? I mean, if it's kind of relevant to the topic, sure. One of the friends says, "Yep, still had to pay support till he was 18." See, you're lucky because it's longer now, Moonlit Fern. So I don't know if it's just in Maryland but I think it's across the country now. Um, it, it's new law. It may differ state by state. I'm not sure, but nowadays you can be on the hook for paying for them until they finish college. So it won't be just till 18. So if they go on to college, and typically people graduate around the age of 22, um, you'll be on the hook for child support until they finish college. And then again, imagine not only are you on the hook for paying for this kid and they go into college until they're like 22, but then remember that in a state like mine, Maryland, even if the kid isn't biologically yours because it came from your wife at the time that you were married, you are still legally bound to child support for a child that isn't even yours. Imagine you paying for like over 22 years for a child that isn't even yours be, because of state law. That kind of incentive, that is disincentivization for anyone, for most rational men. Cole says, "What the f? I didn't know about that law." Yeah, family law is not family law is not in favor of men. And I'm not gonna get too like conspiratorial here, but there in some states the money that comes through like the child support and all those other things and all those other things that men are supposed to pay for because they chose the wrong woman, that usually goes to funding like the pensions and of people and like who are county judges and stuff like that. So they have certain biases to ensure that these sort of legal processes are going on that that fund their retirement. But I don't want to get too conspiratorial about that because it's above my pay grade. But you can look it up, and it's going to differ state by state. Only for instance, but no, I never married and still haven't. Yeah, you're lucky. But then also, one thing Maryland doesn't have, but some other states have, which can get you caught up as well, is common law marriage. So there are some states where if you're in a cohabitation with someone for X amount of years, then you're legally considered married by common law within that state. Luckily, Maryland doesn't have that, but that happens in some other places. So, like, say you've been with someone for like 7 years, you've cohabitated together, then by law of that state, that's um, your common law wife. So, mother versus roasted J Lo ass. Too funny. I'm coughing. Nick says I have false accusations like that because it makes it difficult to believe the real incidents. Like I said, yeah, the what vindicated me was that they displayed the same behavior with my other friends. So the same one that played coy with me when I was just genuinely given like just being and these are the same women that later on will say these guys always want to play games and such, they don't want a real relationship, yada yada yada. And I'm being completely sincere saying, hey, I find you beautiful, I would love to take you out, um you know at another time. And it's like she wasn't rude to me, I'll give her that. But the fact that she co-signed her roommate when she know that's not what happened, like that was just crazy. And like I said, the roommate was just she was just looking to get smashed. And like I said, when she ran up on my homeboy, he was willing to oblige her because he has no, I won't say he has lower standards than me because he has some very cute girlfriends in the past. And his current wife was someone whom I wanted to date as well. The funny thing was I didn't date her. The chick who's currently his wife, I didn't date her back then because she used to date one of their other friends, and they was like, nah, she's one of the homies, you can't date her when she used to date so and so. I'm like, I don't, I was like, I'm cool with him, but I didn't even know him when they were dating, man. I was like, well, no, 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 hold up. I think they, mm, no, 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 they weren't dating when I first met them. They were still friends, but they weren't dating. And like, she was clearly interested because like when I had to do my some annual training out in Fort Dix, New Jersey, and no jokes about that. That's the name of the everyone knows the name of that military installation in New Jersey. I had to do some training in the summer at Fort Dix, and she was like she actually lives close to that area. She's from New Jersey. Her ex was from New York. That's probably why they bonded. And I was like, yeah, let's hang out or whatever. She gave me her number and all this other stuff, and I even called her when I was out there. But we didn't really get to hang out. So I actually called an ex girlfriend from Philly, and we hung out. But then when I came back to school that following school year, they were like, "Yeah, we heard you was trying to hang out with so and so. That's messed up because she used to date so and so." I'm like, "So that has nothing to do with me." I was like, "I didn't even know those two when they were dating." But now he's married to her. So the irony of that. Nick says Marlo, he has talked a lot about great topics that are not what you call quote unquote teenage things. Life is life, not only teenagers experience it. Yeah, true. Nick says, well, when you have critical thinking, you can find inspiration in a lot of things you thought that you couldn't. Moulin Fern says, facts is no disrespect to any woman or man because it goes both ways. How far would women in the chat travel for love? Yeah, I forgot to because this question does apply both to men and women, but yeah, I do actually want to hear the women voice their opinion on that. Like I said, my French teacher's advice goes both ways. He meant that for the men and for the women. He said, don't get married unless you're willing to travel across the ocean to be with that person. And he meant it for both. He meant it both for the boys and the girls in the class. Nick says, had the choice not to pay since he has no say in the life anyway. Ball says, I got rejected by a girl I barely knew, but I liked, and I still feel crappy about it. It happens, bro. Move on. You know what I'm saying? Hit the gym, get yourself right. You'll find the women. Find women who like you. That's what I'll say. Find women who like you more than you like them. So, but yeah, just move on. You barely knew her, so there's no reason to really be too peed off about it. I don't think. Fast SL94 says greetings from Serbia. What's up? One thing I should say, and by the way, I'm ignoring a lot of comments. If you wonder why I didn't respond to you. I did see a comment. I just not responding to it. So when people say, "Oh, like maybe he doesn't see what I'm saying," I'll see literally every comment. I just don't acknowledge all of them. If you're gonna say something irrelevant, if you're gonna say something stupid, and you expect me to actually answer it, then drop a Cash App. If you're not dropping a Cash App, I'm not gonna respond or care about you because once I start doing super chats, it's gonna be worse. Oh yeah, probably didn't because yeah, the YouTube algorithm doesn't like certain words like that. But here's another issue with international dating is you have to beware of romance scams. So people do get romance scammed in different places of the world. There's a lot of and I'm gonna say this honestly, there's a lot of romance scamming that goes on in the Philippines. However, they can be easily avoided if you date smartly. Miss Needle, the question is, how far would you travel to be in a relationship? So yeah, guys, beware of romance scams. Like they happen here in America as well, but there are certain places in these little underdeveloped countries where there are a lot of romance scammers, and these usually the romance scammers, like especially like in the Philippines and sometimes in Thailand as well. This usually happens from people who don't live within the major metropolitan areas. So this is why I always tell like friends and other people going to certain places, stick to the metropolitan areas because there's a lot of these old men who have these little hard-ons about going to the countryside of the Philippines and finding untainted women, and that just shows their complete ignorance of the Philippines. For one, the a lot of the women in the countryside are the ones that's more likely to scam you. They're the ones like everyone has internet in the Philippines through Facebook, and from what they see on TV and what they see online, they think all Americans are rich, and these poorer people who live in the countryside, especially the browner ones, try to romance scam Americans, whether white or black. It's not a racial thing. It's for them. It's a opportunistic thing that they believe Americans are well off and they could, play them cheap. So beware of romance scams if you do date internationally. It's not just in the Philippines. It's in many other places like Ukraine and stuff like that. Like these underdeveloped countries, countries where there's a lot of political tension. A lot of people are looking to for a quick come up. So that is something you gotta beware of. Miss Nia says, the channel Catfish. You mean the TV show that used to be on MTV called Catfish? Yeah, I remember that. I haven't watched that since it first came out, which was like a long time ago. Nick says I would travel to the end of the earth, especially with my first love, but ever since her, I haven't ever felt that kind of love ever since. I mean, it won't be the same with with other people, but it can still be as good or even better. But it won't be the same. As far as that certain experience, right? But there's a lot of good women out there, man. But I was saying, do be careful with international dating of the romance scammers because they do prey on Americans and Europeans who don't know any better. But that's sometimes where when you can tune into YouTube vloggers who can kind of give you a lot of information on these scams to look out for. And like I can if people are interested, I can even break down the type of Filipina that's going to scam you on a statistically anyway. Miss Nita says no, it's not MTV. An MTV show. It's a team of people exposing romance scammers and helping victims. Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard of it then. My mind just interprets as what's up on OG. What did you work in your past 40 years? How old do you think I am? 40 years ago, I was a a toddler. Okay, 40 years ago, I was working on Captain Crunch, He Man, and Saturday morning cartoons. That's what I was working on the past 40 years ago. Nick Ireland says, I felt like something in me died back then. I became numb even when I think I feel love. So then, see, that's where you might want to speak with a specialist. And I'm not, trying to knock you. And when I'm talking about specialists, I don't mean like a clinical psychologist. I'm talking about a counselor, like either maybe the relationship counselor or or like a counseling psychologist. They usually deal with people who are just having difficulties, not necessarily, you know, a mental health disorder, but counseling psychologists deal with lower tier stuff than clinical psychologists do. So you might want to, like, I've taken I've done counseling when I was in school. Like, it was academic counseling, but all these academic counselors will tell you that when people come to them for academic counseling, there's always some other issue besides schoolwork that's actually bothering them. So, um, but yeah, I might do a whole separate stream or a pre-recorded video on romance scamming and catfishing and stuff like that. At least as it pertains to overseas. I can't talk too much about it here in America, just because I haven't gone through that. Because for the past 11 years, I haven't dated American women. No, so that's where I disagree, Miss Needle. He says sometimes it takes a long time to heal, depending on it. It depends. Like some after a certain amount of time, it's not healthy to still be lingering on a loss because once something affects. So Freud once wrote this book called The Psychopathology of Everyday Life, and he was saying, look, every all of us go through our mental health issues. All of us do on a day to day basis, right? So just like we have like day to day health issue, like medical health issues, we have day to day mental health issues too, right? But but these are like subclinical problems, like things that aren't, you know, they aren't serious enough that you need to go to a hospital setting to take care of it. These can be just like things in our everyday lives that we just have to learn to cope with. And he was saying, so this is the psychopathology of everyday life, and he was saying the difference of like, our, just our everyday stress we go through compared to the things that we should probably seek professional help is when it affects our ability to either work or to love. When the things you're going through affect your ability to work or to love, that's when you probably should be seeking professional help, because that means that it's no longer at a subclinical level. It's at a level where it needs to actually be treated. So that's how I see it. if if it's if Nick is, if it's affecting your ability to actually engage into healthy relationships today, then you gotta deal with it, because you don't want this emotional baggage preventing you from finding happiness right now. That's what I would say. But I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor or anything like that. That's just like my sort of bartender like advice with, from someone who has a background in that field. That it, if it's affecting your ability to actually engage into healthy relationships, then it's an issue. And Miss Neal said, "Yeah, it's true. It's not healthy, but there are different reasons why people can't let go. I think there's also spiritual reasons behind it. Well, whatever the reasons are, like I said, once you're going through something affects your ability to work into love, then that's a problem. Like that's how I knew I was having certain issues. Like when I'm not able to just go to work, and I mean not like work is great anyway, but um, still like, excuse me, um, when I can't do that, it's a problem. Now, one like unless you're like a porn star, I'd never want to hear someone doing porn saying, "Oh, I hate Mondays." Like, man, shut up. Like you get to tear ass up every day. I don't want to hear it, because there's literally been a porn star. He was talking about it on I think DJ Vlad. Um, if people know that YouTuber, a lot of people hate him in the black community because they think he just gets rappers to snitch on themselves. But anyway, um, he's interviewed a lot of porn stars, and he was saying this one guy was talking about how stressful it is, and he said his friends who don't work in the porn industry was like, "Man, shut up, you get to do porn." And he was like, "Yeah, but it's real work though." He says like actual work I got to do is not just, oh, I'm just having sex and that's it. But he was saying he realized that he shouldn't complain about his work anymore to his friends who aren't in the industry, because they wouldn't understand. So, Moonlit Fern says, "Address those feelings, Nick, and you're not alone, my guy. It's hard, but worth it. Exercise, read, or go fishing. That's what I did. Find what works for you. Tons of self help videos out there." Nick says, "Well, I have gotten over her. I'm not sad or anything, but I do feel content. And I love myself, like truly not in an egotistical way, but truly understand myself. But I have seen way too much mistrust." Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When it comes to that point, like I don't know if you were dating here or overseas, but if it was here, I would definitely recommend trying someone overseas. I'm only person DJ Vlad and Fed. But I think you talked about No Jumper guy who also be snitching. No, it wasn't No Jumper, and he I ain't even gonna get on him, but man, letting his wife get anyway. But no, yeah. So DJ Vlad went on another podcast. He went on to the Math Hoffa podcast because they get along well, and he was saying that everyone says he's a Fed. He said, but he says in between the videos he makes, he'll tell these people, "Hey, don't talk about this, don't talk about that, or whatever," or they'll talk about certain stuff and he'll edit it before he puts it out. So he says he's not just out there getting people to rat on themselves. I'm like, I don't know, my man. You had the dude from That's So Raven sitting there just talking about all sorts of outrageous stuff. I'm not going to even get into what that dude said from, the actor used to play on That's So Raven, all that crazy stuff he was saying, talking about he was I ain't going to say what he said about Bow Wow and all those other people, but it was just he was way out of pocket. Like the drugs must have been hitting heavily during that during that interview. Nick says exercise does help me. It cleanses my mind. It helps me organize my thoughts. That's good. Nick says only in the U.S. See, yeah, like I said, man, try overseas. I would say don't use those overseas dating apps though. Those are sketchy. I used OkCupid to find someone overseas because so they changed how it works now. But back 7 years ago when I was 7 8 years ago when I was trying it, you could date and you could find people internationally by just turning off the distance that you were looking for to meet someone. So you could, it could be as small as like within a 2 mile radius, or you could just turn it off and you could find people from all over the world. That's how I did it. But now I think it actually has it built into it, which sort of country you're looking for people in. But that was a good platform, a good dating platform that you didn't have to spend hundreds of dollars for to use. Like it was probably just as good, if not better, than like Match.com and some of those other ones. Mullen first says Orlando Brown was wild. Yeah, man. Yeah, Orlando Brown, yo, he was. He said Bow Wow had good. I'm like, what, what? And Bow Wow responded to me. He's like, man, that man tripping. I, I don't know. Who knows? Because a lot of those dudes in the industry, like Diddy and all of the, you know, pretty much everyone affiliated with Diddy now they think has done some stuff like, dang, who was it? I forgot, but the people you've been thinking are manly are the ones that's doing it. What the guy, one of the comedians even said on Math Hoffa, the guy that used to be on the Chappelle show, Ashy Larry, I forgot his real name. He was saying, man, it's the ones in the industry that don't look like they sucking this out there. And then he had everyone laughing on the Math Hoffa show. They was like, but nah, man. He said they don't look like. He said, but they don't look like they go like that. He said it'd be the ones that don't look like that. He said no. He said they don't go out there looking like they do those things. It's funny as I don't know what. He said that's why my career never popped off. He said because I'm not willing to do all those things to get TV shows or movie roles. So I don't know how true it is, but he said it, and the other comedian said it. What's his name on that Shannon Sharp's podcast? um, Nick says, isn't his name Adam? That guy, sheesh, he's a straight simp. It's sad, and I don't think he's okay. Nah, he was bragging. Like he was saying he don't mind his wife getting smashed by porn stars because she's bringing home the bag, and together they both making a lot of money. I'm like, so you're willing to get into degeneracy just for the sake of just because you can make money behind it. So that means that's literally you won't do for the sake of money if you're willing to to pimp your wife out like that. And this is why people had a lot of issues with that weirdo. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna say it. O'Shea Duke Jackson for people who watched that little fake pro blackity black dude. Like he did a whole bunch of videos on Adam from No Jumper and was saying all you black people think he's don't realize he's making money while y'all just worried about smashing his wife and all this sort of stuff. He said, meanwhile, he's richer than all of you and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, dude, that's what you're prioritizing. You're saying that it's all right that like he's pimping his wife out, not his girlfriend, his wife, whom was they just married, and decided to let her do a porn with a black dude. Then he's sitting there bragging about smashing the man's wife and giving her cream pies, and that she couldn't take it, so he had to go go slowly on her. And I'm like, where is the how is this normal? How is this normal behavior? And it's all because, oh, I'm getting the bag, I'm making money. That's like, you. That means you have no values. And it's like O'Shea Duke Jackson was defending that, and he was trying to mock people. He was trying to mock his viewers for ridiculing um, Adam for that. And he kept trying to make it sound like it was only black men that was doing it. I was like, no. I was like, I know there was plenty of white people saying the same thing about Adam that black people were saying. They were all like, how the hell would you let someone just be banging out your wife like that? And that she was looking forward to doing it with other uh, men, because prior to that, he kept, like, he would have sex scenes with other women, but it was usually like they were doing like these threesome scenes together. But then he decided, to let her do her own scenes with men. I was like, that's just degeneracy, and to sit there and like try to glorify that because they're making a lot of money. All money is not good money. Like, if you're willing to, if social media influencers are willing to do degenerate shit just to make a lot of money, that's not worth it. That's why I would never call myself a social media influencer. Like, I would just I create content. That's it. Hey, Molly friends here. Adam is a cuck, but we going forward into a whole different video that I love to rant on someday. Yeah, we can save that for another day. So let's get back to like just talking about why or why not people would venture far off for their own relationships. Miss Neal says, well, dating apps, people are there for a reason, all sorts of them. Yeah, it's normalized nowadays. I think it's actually because people are so socially awkward and lack the soft skills to approach people in everyday life. It's more normal now for people to meet online than it is in everyday life, which is sad because I'm well, it's a good and bad thing. The good thing is that it's removed the social stigma from online dating. However, the the trade-off with that is that there are some women who aren't even approachable in real life because they lack the social graces of people in the past. Like, in the '90s, we didn't have the privilege of online dating. You had to talk to people in real life. You had to actually venture up and talk to the girl, and face rejection. You had to like get the number, hope it's a real number, call her, and then gotta hopefully not have to talk to the parents or whatever, or even as an adult, um, may not have to deal with parents, but still, just the fear of calling someone, like, that was all too real. It it made sterner stuff of men back then. When we first met mine on MySpace. Dang, you really going back with that one. I'm an old dude. No, if the it that yeah, that's old school. But even more old school would have been if you said like I met my wife on Black Planet. I'm like, God damn, now that's that's a long time ago. If you said like Black Planet or well, I think Friendster is about as old as MySpace. No, I think Friendster is before MySpace. Then you have High Five, Tagged, CollegeClub.com, uh, a few other ones, right? I was on everything back then. Messina says Moonlit on my space era and then ICQ. See, I never used ICQ. I actually didn't even know about ICQ until after people really stopped using it. And then I heard that like the only people who were using ICQ were like people who were using it for business reasons. But I didn't even hear about ICQ until it was like kind of already outdated. I pretty much just use AOL Instant Messenger and Yahoo or MSN Messenger for everything. And Moon the Furnace says Diddy going down hard. Yeah. Well, no Diddy. Well, actually, yes Diddy. To Diddy did it. But yeah, Diddy going down hard. The security snitching. Says Jay-Z next and Jay killed Aaliyah and DMX. What? Then now they saying Busta Rhymes is a massive you know what with Diddy. I don't know. But I do remember 50 Cent was he kept making jokes on his Instagram saying that Jay Z isn't taking any of Diddy's calls that he's in hiding right now. I don't know. We'll we'll find out. Like Cat Williams, that's the comedian I was trying to remember. Like Cat Williams said, he said a lot will come out in 2024, and it wasn't. I don't think he was being prophetic. I think that he knew that a lot of these people had upcoming cases and investigations against them. So that's probably why he was making that prediction. What was that? But yeah, um, I'm gonna go soon, guys. Within like the next 10 minutes. It's late. Gotta get up early. But um, yeah, I think. But I do agree, Molifer. I think there's gonna be some more celebrities um, under investigation for stuff in the future. Like, and then the problem is the word trafficking is used so loosely within law enforcement. Although there's a strict interpretation of it, um, either as like as pertaining to um, forced labor or to sex practices, right? But the term is also used very loosely to sometimes just um, consensual hookups between adults. That isn't trafficking, but we'll see. Like we already saw some people wrapped up in the Diddy investigation, like Cuba Gooding Jr., which I was surprised. I was like, damn, Cuba Gooding Jr. How the hell he get caught up in this investigation? But he's part of the Diddy investigation, as is two of uh, two of Diddy's sons. Moonlit Furnace says, Miss Needle, time flies. How far would you travel for a real relationship? Miss Needle said, not surprising. It's Holly weird after all. True. I mean, Hollywood's Hollywood has always the people in Hollywood have always led a bohemian lifestyle. So I'm not so sure why people are so surprised about this now. I think it's only because people have put these Hollywood stars on a pedestal in a way that they didn't back in the early times of cinema, where people knew that actors and entertainers were kind of unconventional. But so I guess I'm just checking something on TV. But yeah, Nick says your dignity is worth more than money in my Nick Allen says plenty of fish has way too many scammers. I heard a good one was Bumble until they changed it. They did, apparently women didn't like it because per, they were expected to make the first move on Bumble. But uh, one of my homeboys, he uses Bumble and he uses OK Cupid. Those are the two main ones, and then like Tinder, of course. Miss Needle says, Moonlit, I don't need medical help anymore, but I agree it's cheaper in many countries. Um, and I'm sorry to hear you struggle too with health. It sucks a lot of the time. Yeah. Moonlit says, please be healthy and respect to you. I'll be all right, and thank you. What's up, Deborah Timms? Moonlit, Miss Needle says, Moonlit, I do my best I can, and big respect to you as well, man. Keep going no matter what. Moonlit, for instance, did your sound cut out? Where did it cut out? Can you guys not hear me? Let me make. Can you guys hear me? So I just hit the slash, so it's gone. So now you can hear me, right? All right. Copy that. All right. All right. Good. Good. Now let me get back to the old comments since the mic cut out. My mic sounds right. Check one. My mic sounds right. Check two. My mic sounds right. Check three. Are you ready? I'm playing. All right. Uh, so what I was saying, I was just reading the comments between Moonlit Fern and Miss Needle. That's what I was reading. Those. Not sure why someone's calling me Baldy when you can clearly see all the hair on my head. I'm just wearing this. I just have it cut as a short Caesar cut. I'm just reading the comments, guys, just to make sure. Uh, Then you know the problem is that I'm always. Then the problem is, so if there was like a 5 minute time where I you didn't hear me, the problem is I'm always like 5 minutes behind in the comments too, so it overlapped. So I know that's frustrating. I apologize for that. But that whole time that you missed what I was saying, like I said, I was just actually just reading the comments that Moonlit Fern and Miss Needle were uh were relaying. Nick says apparently carpets are bold to him. Right. Like about I, I don't know what you call this if this is not hair. I don't have any Beijing or whatever they call that stuff. You guys heard that you've seen some of these people spray the stuff on their head and it looks like magic marker. Um, and people at my old job said it was called Beijing because they were saying that they were saying one of the owners of the company was wearing Beijing to cover up his baldness on his front of his headline. But I've seen videos where the person's whole hair is is that Beijing stuff, and it does look fake. Like they just took like a permanent marker. It's like so, one of the friends that you're good. We just enjoy your thoughts and opinions and views on things. Thank you. Chica says, "Hey man, it's been a while. Hope things are well with you." Yes, thank you. Missing this says carpets can't regrow hair though, unless it's a chia pet carpet. No, no, I'm joking. Chica says enhancements. Yeah, then you have I be seeing all sorts of stuff on Facebook. So I be seeing these dudes. I seen the rapper Fat Joe. He has like a Beijing. So he has a bald head, but he's using Beijing for his beard. I'm like, yo, that looks crazy looking. It, like you can tell that's not hair. It looks like it looked like magic marker around his face, like to make his beard. Or no, or for you '80s babies, you remember that old toy we used to have with the little red pencil thing, and you would move it to put like um, the little magnetic shavings to make designs or faces and stuff like that. That's what that Beijing stuff looks like. It looks like that little magnetic those little magnetic shavings from that old '80s toy that we used to have. Well, the furnaces, I forgot. How you forget about chia pets? They still sell those, man. They still sell them. Like when they started, like the latest one I saw was the Yoda chia pet. Like they made a chia pet from Yoda. I'm like, dang. Like they, yeah. Especially they're like really. You'll see a lot of them selling around Christmas time. Like they'll be all over the place. Like you got the old school one from the '80s that looks like a lamb. But they got like there's like literally hundreds of different chia pet designs out there. I saw Yoda, I saw I can't remember. I think it was like Charlie Brown or something. I've seen a bunch of them. Nick says, "Yeah, man, you're a genuine guy. I can't find much of that on social media or these influencers." Yeah, my thing is, if they're calling themselves influencers, that's a red flag because what are you influencing? Like, what are you doing to be an influencer to gain that title? And I don't know if some of you remember from one of my old live streams, like there's even now college courses on becoming social media influencers. And in this one university, I forgot in which college is in Europe though, they actually have an entire degree to become a social media influencer, which is crazy. And my friend says, yeah, their hair look like spray paint and their beards. But then here's the other thing. So the Beijing is crazy, but then the other thing is now they have like this little glue on hair. So they'll so the barber will shave everything bald, right? Because the person's already bald, and so it's just like patchy everywhere. So they'll just shave that off, and then they'll just put on this big chia pet looking thing on their head, and then they'll just literally cut it into shape. Like they'll cut the hairline and how low they want the hair to be, and it looks like real hair. That's crazy. And women were laughing. I'm like, well, some of you women shouldn't be laughing too hard. I'll say because for years y'all have been doing the same thing, like fake hair, fake nails, fake eyelashes, uh, fake lips, fake butt, fake breasts, and talking about you looking for a real man. Like, okay. So it's like, okay, guys are catching up now. They got barbers that can put on fake hair for them or fake beards. I remember back 20 years ago, the whole thing was guys who had cornrows, and no, I never had cornrows, by the way, but guys who had cornrows, they were getting hair extensions for their cornrows so they could have more hang time. Because I used to ask, I was like, what the hell is hang time? And people explained to me, they was like, oh, that's when your cornrows extend, beyond your neckline. They call it hang time. I was like, oh, okay, so I was like, so guys are paying to get hair extensions in their cornrows just so they can have hang time. I was like, that's stupid. But Chica says, yeah, it is. The light reflects off of it. Yeah, it'd be looking shiny as a mug. Like, have you guys seen Fat Joe? Like I said, he got the Beijing. He rocks the Beijing beard. I'm like, why? That looks crazy looking. Or you ever seen like the Muslims? You know, um, if you live in the black community, you'll see like the black Muslims, and they'll dye their beards like red or something like that. It just looks weird. I'm like, you look like a what am I gonna say? Like a black dwarf or gnome, looking like a black David the gnome with the with the dyed red beard. Like that just be looking crazy as I don't know. Or sometimes it'll even look like bluish or purplish. I'm like, why are you guys dyeing your beards like that? I was like, I've never seen one Arabic Muslim doing that, but whatever. Miss Neal says it better be permanent paint. I I don't know. I think it might wash out because remember what happened to Rudy Giuliani when he was sweating one day and you literally saw all the dye going down the side of his head. That was funny. I think the same thing happens with Beijing. I don't think it responds well in heat. I think it will come off. I think it does rub off like with heat. So, and Moolah friend says Yoda Chia Pet. Yeah, it was a Yoda Chia Pet. He said, "Wow, baby Grogu one that my nephew gonna go crazy on a birthday." They probably do have a Grogu one now, but the one I saw was like the original Yoda. But you'll usually start seeing them in like the stores around Christmas time, like Walmart, the Family Dollar, stuff like places like that. This is I'd rather go buzz cutting hat than faking hair. Who got time for that? Yeah, like I said, if I start losing this, I'm just gonna cut it bold. I'm not doing all that crazy stuff, man. And Moonlit friend said, "Yep, let's be honest, because men didn't want to say wigs." Now, yeah, I don't know what they actually call them, but basically, yes, they're wigs. They it's like they're glued on, but they glue it onto their bald heads. They don't like. It's not like like it's not like like twisted into their head like the way women do with like weaves and stuff like that. Like they shave their head, put these little man wigs on, and then they cut the hair to the desired length. Like Steve Harvey did for like a long time with that. Everyone wondered how he had that perfect box fade, and we found out that Steve Harvey's box fade for like a decade was just a wig. Nick Iron says the Japanese in old times embraced balding. No, so actually the samurai actually they most of them weren't bald. They purposely shaved this part of their head. It was a thing. It Part of it had to do with like the type of helmets they wore, the battle helmets. Then the other thing was it was a sign of prestige within the upper ranks of the samurai nobility. But then commoners started trying to copy their style. But it was originally the whole thing for like cutting this off and then having a little tie hair tie in the back with the bun was like a pragmatic thing for them. But if you had noticed, like when they had shaved this, like you will see it growing back because they weren't actually bald. At least the younger ones weren't. But even the younger ones, like they would be like in their teens and 20s, and this would be all bald right here because they shaved it. That probably started in probably like the Heian period or sometime around then of feudal Japan. Messina says, yeah, Moonlit, yeah, for real, too much fakery already. Cornrows are pretty, but they painful to get. Now, when girls used to rock it, I used to think that was so cute. Like, if they already had, like, I don't want to say pretty hair, but if they already had, like, that sort of manageable straight hair and they cornrowed it, it used to look really nice. And it did, like, nowadays I wouldn't like it would look masculine, but back then, like 23 years ago or whenever that was in style, it was actually cute. Like when you see like a little like because once you started seeing like little Asian and Latina girls wearing it, and even of course white girls, like everyone was, I was like they rock it. Like when they were wearing the cornrows, I'm like really? I said they were wearing cornrows, but yeah, that's when they started saying cultural appropriation and all this sort of stuff. I'm like, you can't accuse them of cultural appropriation when you're wearing like blonde hair weaves, like so. Moonlit Friend says, "Nah, girl, in the states can't lie. They Super Bowl, tattooed eyebrows, etc. Not everyone, of course, but y'all know we ain't lying. When they get their lashes done now, like all these girls around around the pandemic was calling themselves entrepreneurs because they opened their own lash shops. Got their little, they got their free money from Trump, formed an LLC so they can get their little fraudulent loans, the COVID loans, right? And started their own little lash business. Said, I'm an entrepreneur. I do lashes. Like, bitch, you're not a fucking. Let me stop cussing, but y'all about to be monetized. I can't cuss anymore like that. But yeah, like you're not a freaking entrepreneur just because you formed an LLC so that you could like start your own lash shop. That's not what being an entrepreneur is about. It, and I did a whole rant on that, guys. If you want, when I talk about what is and what isn't an entrepreneur. Chica says, "Yeah, Miss Needle permanent pain is wild." Uh, yeah, it's not permanent. Beijing is definitely not permanent. It will run off, like it will come out easily. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that's Giuliani had something like that, or maybe he must have been wearing or maybe he was just wearing a very cheap version of it. But to see all of it like just trickling off his head, looking like he was bleeding black blood, it just It just looked weird. And of course, he just got disbarred in New York. What was it, last week? Big Kel Surprise. I guess my father can have something in common with him now. Oops, did I say too much? Let me stop. The Chicas had known as well. They do. Come on, I know some of y'all seen these black Muslims, the old ones, and they instead of going gracefully, like if you don't want to go gray, I get it. That's fine, cause I'm gonna dye mine too, but I'm gonna dye it black, a natural black color. Like, why can't they dye it black? I don't care whether it's jet black or natural black or the new uh, salt and pepper dye. But red, like, how would you're a dark skinned dude with black hair? How does that fit the rest of your hair? A red beard with a black hair on your top of your head, like that looks crazy looking. Like you like a black young Papa Smurf. uh, Mullen Farron says David the Gnome was my shit. I can sing the whole thing. Everyone loved David the Gnome. I didn't catch the ending though of it, but I pretty much watched almost every episode of David the Gnome back in the day. We all love David the Gnome, but that's what these dudes be looking like. Mullen Farron says no Walmart here. It's Tesco and Big C and Shopee. Oh yeah, they do have Shopee in Thailand, but you know what? They have a version of Walmart. Oh, well, in the Philippines, it's called because one of my wife's friends was working there. I think it was called Walt uh, something, but it's part of the Walton family uh, businesses. They don't call it Walmart, but it's pretty similar. And I was like, oh no, please don't let Walmart go over there. They're going to destroy their economy just the way they did here in America. Because they actually have a mission statement that they purposely try to drive out mom and pop stores from the, the, the local economy wherever they set up a Walmart so that people will be dependent on them for all their needs. I don't want Walmart overseas. I know they're in Canada, but I hope they don't spread farther in Asia. But there is like a version of Walmart in the Philippines. It's not called Walmart. It's called Walton something or other. Emily, for instance, Steve Harvey hair been fake. Yeah, we know it's fake, but back in the '90s, we most of us didn't know that his little box fade was fake. At least not back then. We all assumed he actually had like an actual like box fade. But that's wild as hell that he actually found a box fade wig. Hold up, guys. Let me check some comments here. Well, I actually wanted Mrs. Contrarian to moderate, but she was too busy with work. You would think, the higher up she went up in J.P. Morgan. Well, I don't want to. Well, I already said it. But anyway, you would think the higher she went up in her at the bank she works, that it'd be easier. But nah. Messenger said, "Moonlit, get it early if you got long shipping time." Moonlit Fern says, "Fact, samurai cut is sick, but now hipsters do it like man buns, but it's not the same, right?" Khaleesi says, "How old are you?" And some other dumb stuff he's saying, but um, Moonlit Fern says, "Okay, confession. Since we off on a tangent, I like the half shaved head on women." Oh, so you like the whole Cassie thing that Diddy made Cassie do? He like, according to his former bodyguard, he said that he literally was just like watching something like some modeling or something on TV, and he told her, "Go shave your head to look like that," and she did it. I can't get with it. It looks crazy to me. Stamp Fairtex has done that to her hair too, and I don't like it. It looks with Stamp, it looks kind of masculine on hers. That's why I don't like it. That's why I like Supergirl better than Stamp Fairtex because she's cuter. A green hat. Oh, because of the the uh, the lamp. And Miss Neal says moonlit. You mean side cut? I don't know what they call it, but what he's saying, Miss Neal, like when the girls would just shave like half of this off, like the way Cassie used to have it when she was dating Diddy, and that's because he apparently he told her to do it, and she just did it. Like she knew this guy wasn't playing with a full deck of cards, but she dated him for years anyway because she, she he controlled her career. Moonlit Furnace says, yeah, they went ham with the loans, acting like it's a business with Lee press on nails and glue and eyelashes. Right. The That's not the worst thing though. I can understand poor people grifting to get these loans, but it was rich people getting these loans. Like, how do they qualify for these loans? How are they losing them? How are they justifying that they were losing business because of COVID-19 just to get these loans? That's that's who I'm more worried about. If they're gonna go after people for getting these PPP loans, they should have been going after the super wealthy for getting these loans. There's no reason the super wealthy people should have been qualifying for these loans. And when I'm saying super wealthy, I'm talking about billionaires. How does a billionaire qualify for a PPP loan? Like, that's crazy. Well, for instance, I don't know what's called Neil, but like Cassie did. Yep. And Melissa's, Miss Nita says, I never understood the glue nails or fake lashes, etc. I glue my eyeballs shut for real. Some of these women, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what your, racial background is, Miss Needle, but like, I remember girls when I was younger, like, they used to have these little elaborate hairstyles with the French rolls or the mushroom haircut with the like asymmetric bob and all that sort of stuff. And I used to wonder how in the world are they keeping their hair together every day. And then I found out from my older sister that a lot of them actually slept with their head on their hand holding their head up while they slept every night just to keep from messing up their hair. I'm like, damn, you gotta go through all of that just to maintain that hairstyle. That's too much. Like, cause I think every black girl at some point had like the little French roll back in the '90s, unless they live somewhere more moderate, like the DC area. I didn't see girls doing that, but in Baltimore and Philly and New York, they all had those hairstyles. Miss Nita says, plus I play guitar, so fake nails are a no-no and they damage your nails. Yep. I used to have some family members who were beauticians, so they said that as well. They were saying it's better that the women just put that nail stuff on their cuticles to strengthen their nails and help them grow. Um, Moon Fern says we share the same views on Walmart monopolizing. Yeah, they do. Yeah, Walmart is the evil empire. I mean, to be honest, Target isn't any better. We just like Target because it's more upscale. But Target really isn't any better than Walmart. It just it just seems less tawdry, and the people who go there don't look like they're gonna kill you. And it goes down in Walmart shop parking lots. So you you might need to get a concealed carry to get through the Walmart parking lot. Chica says, "Yeah, old stamp hairstyle is better." Some of you guys be just mentioning every like black person you know. There's not one person that anyone's compared me to that I remotely look like. It's like, hello, 2024 is calling. Here are a list of current black celebrities. My, it's one of my family homes from when I was a child, from uh, late 80s, early 90s, because back in the 80s I was living in Chicago. So I would just come back to Baltimore during the summer for like a month. But my grandmother's had this place since the 80s. And before then, she used to live in a very notorious part of Baltimore called Park Heights. I think she still owns that property, or she sold it to someone. I can't remember, but that was my first childhood home. This is like the second, because I lived here briefly before going to Chicago, and then didn't come back here until the 90s. Stayed here until the 90s. Then, well, part of the 90s, then moved to the DC suburbs. And before that, moved to Philly and Delaware. And came back from the DC suburbs and moved and lived here before moving to another part, before moving down the street where my sister and mother currently live. But by that time, I was off in the army and I was in college and didn't come back to Baltimore to about 11 years ago. But yeah, this grandparents have this place kind of old school looking. I actually dig the old school stuff because if you notice, if so, we're not wealthy by the way, but I'll just say this: so if you go to like a wealthy person's house, and I'm not talking about nouveau rich, I'm talking about like people who've had money in their family for generations. Those houses will look old because people don't just go out and replace good things for the sake of replacing things who have money. And so you'll see a lot of old stuff, like they'll have like the most up to date technology in there, but hey, you'll find like a lot of antique looking furniture and stuff like that in a lot of well moneyed families. I think it's a for one, it's a good thing. It's not wasting money, and also when a lot of these things get old, it makes them more valuable to me. But no, these walls aren't from 1973. She actually had these walls redone because that was the wood paneling wasn't the original look of these walls. I don't think. Yeah, but whatever. It's not my house, guys. Nick says, "I think you look like you." Thank you, I appreciate it. Moonlit Fern says a darker skinned Vin Diesel. That's kind of a stretch. Did he ever reveal what he was, by the way? Because I've noticed his hair grows kind of kinky when it gets when he lets it grow in. So I'm guessing he may be part black, like Andrew Tate is. Like I don't know if people know that about Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is half black and from DC originally. Angel says, "Hey, what's up?" Only first is, yeah, Chicago in the '80s. Hopefully in the North Side. No, 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 not the Chicago, the city. Chicago, just the Chicagoland area. So we live in like Will County and Cook County, like in those areas, like 10 minutes away from the border of Indiana. I didn't live like we were probably an hour away from Chicago. Skynet. I don't think I look like that. Now that guy from Terminator 2 and Don Cheadle. Now those two guys look alike. They both have those wide noses and those broad foreheads. But I don't have the nose or the broad forehead that both of those actors have. He's still around. Actually, he's still living too. I think he got to be like in his 70s or 80s now, though. Someone said, no, you said, because I'm about to wrap it up, guys. I didn't mean to be on this late, so I'm gonna just check out the last few comments. Cool peeps asked some about Islam cashiers. I don't know. I don't have a. I don't know. I don't really have a strong opinion on that. No, yeah, Tate is a jerk. I agree. What I would say is because he's black pill, and the difference between black pill and red pill is that like I think black pill see the same problems as the red pill, but they don't really care. Like they'll either just take advantage of people who do care, or they just have a very fatalistic view of everything. Because like the black pill doesn't really offer any solutions. The red pill sometimes will be wrong-headed, but at least they're trying to offer solutions. Um, and he's not offering any real solutions. But his diagnosis of, a lot of the same, a lot of the problems that we talk about in the manosphere, in the red pill spaces, and the people who call themselves menace or whatever, or meninist, whatever they call themselves, I don't know. But basically, the ones who care about like male driven topics and stuff like that, he's good on like giving you what the problem is, but he doesn't give any really good solutions. So I agree with that. And people were rejoicing when he and his brother had got locked up last year, and I was saying, regardless of what you guys think about him, he and his brother still deserve due process, because even though he was living in Romania, they do get due process out there. But I said the reason I think he was being treated so poorly by the Romanian court system was because he had basically embarrassed their government by saying that he could get away with whatever he wants out there. So I think they made an example of him. Mulder Fern says, guys, buy my homie a coffee and share and like and subscribe, all the good things, please. Chica says earlier you mentioned you spoke about what makes an entrepreneur. I missed that talk. What was your take on it? So that was in a completely different live stream. It wasn't this one. This was something that was something I did many, many, many months ago. To to be very brief about it, I was basically saying that an entrepreneur isn't simply someone who owns their own business. That's not the definition of entrepreneur. The definition of entrepreneur is someone who takes great personal financial risks in starting up a business. So you can be a small, but a lot of people use the word synonymously with small business owner, and that's not the same thing. You can be a small business owner without being an entrepreneur, and vice versa. You can be an entrepreneur without being a small business owner. I personally wouldn't want to be an entrepreneur because I don't want to take great personal financial risk in starting a business because most startup businesses fail. So I wouldn't want to do that. We only hear about all the successes of entrepreneurs who made it, but it's far more who didn't make it than who have made it. So if you do want to own your own business, it's probably better to not try to be an entrepreneur and just make calculated risk. And what I was saying is that too many people now find it trendy to call themselves entrepreneurs, but they're abusing the term because they think just starting their own business or opening an LLC so that they can be an independent contractor makes them an entrepreneur. It's like no, starting the LLC just so you can be an independent contractor does not make you an entrepreneur. Nor does even starting your own small business that doesn't make you an entrepreneur unless and only unless you it comes at you through great financial cost to yourself. And in that regards, it's not always worth doing. So that's what I was talking about. Miss Nita says, Moonlit, he need that coffee. We all do. Yeah. I'm going to eat it this morning because, yeah. Honest opinion on Guy Fieri. So you guys completely forgot the topic, which was would you travel long distance for a relationship? But since I'm about to end this, I'll take these random comments and then I'm ending it. I don't know enough about Guy Fieri to neither like nor dislike him, but from the stuff I've seen on the food channel, he seems cool as far as like promoting like these little mom and pop restaurants. Most of the food looks delicious. I have heard that people criticize him for like promoting like um, comfort food or more low tier type of food, but who cares? I'm not one of these food snobs that think you have to eat escargot and shallots and stuff like that. Like, who cares? Like Warren Buffett is one of the five richest people in the world and used to be the richest, but he's still within the five richest. And the dude eats like a McDonald's once every day. So who cares? Like personal taste is subjective. So when people try to knock Guy Fieri for like the type of food that he promotes, who cares? It's all about personal taste when it comes to food. That's my take on it. Nick Iron says I say Myron Gaines is better than Tate. I wouldn't. Myron Tate's is Myron Tate's is a jerk. So first of all, and I'm not gonna now. One thing I won't knock him for, which is what a lot of people knock him for, is that he used to be a Homeland Security agent, and people call him the Feds for that. I won't knock him for that. I'm gonna knock him for basically he's made his whole social media career off of black black men, but he mocks them. He wore Klan hoods, called them monkeys, brought on a white supremacist Nick Fuentes on his show, and had him tell and kept telling him to say nigger. Um, then, like I said, he was mocking black people and talking all this trash about how they can't be successful in their own country. Yet he fled Sudan. Last time I heard, Sudan is a shithole. So you couldn't be big in your own country because your own country's a fucking shithole. you come to our country making it big off of the very black people whom you are mocking, and you think you're better than them. Like, nah, bro. On top of that, he and his little butt buddy got kicked off of YouTube. First they got demonetized, then they got kicked off. So now they're on Rumble. Rumble is now the platform for all the misfits that got kicked off of YouTube and TikTok. So every every little misfit that's been either demonetized or deplatformed on YouTube are now on Rumble. I'm pretty sure Miss Pearly, little Pearly Griff things is on Rumble now too, because she's got kicked off of TikTok, and she's got demonetized on YouTube, and one of her major channels was deplatformed. I think she's still on YouTube, but I think she's making content on another platform now because of that controversy. Like they're grifters, and I think Myron is worse than Tate. Tate Tate never like came at the people that actually like are his audience and just straight up clowned them. On top of that, he Fresh and Fit got big. Their whole channel and all this stuff they did got big because Kevin Samuels supported them. He flew out to them. They didn't pay him. They didn't pay him to for his interview, and they didn't provide money for him to fly out. He flew out to Florida on his own dime to do their show and promoted them. And what did he get in thanks to that? Myron was going behind his back calling him gay and all the sorts of things. So with all due respect, fuck Myron. So and I'm not scared of Myron. I can fight too. Chica says, yeah, 95% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. Yeah, I was like, especially entrepreneurships. Those by their very nature, entrepreneurships are risky, risky ventures. So most of them do fail. So like I said, when most people use the word entrepreneur, most of them are misusing the word. Words get trendy and people start misusing them, like generational wealth and stuff like that. And most people don't realize, most people when they're talking about generational wealth are talking about income passed through like real estate or stock, stuff like that. And anyway, so MSN says Sudan is in civil war is terrible. Exactly. Like he has the nerve to be sitting there clowning black Americans when he's literally from a country that's messed up. It's like, dude, you couldn't, you couldn't do what you do there, so you're here. It's like, and you're mocking the very people that were the ones who supported you, and you kept getting, and plus then they kept getting running afoul of the YouTube partnership program. People don't understand. So here's another insider thing for you guys. So the YouTube partnership program, which I'll once I become monetized, I would be agreeing to be a part of that, right? Part of that is that there's certain code of conduct with being part of the YouTube partnership program, because it's basically like you're being an independent contractor under YouTube and ergo Google. But part of that is that you have to have a certain standard of conduct, and that pertains to even when you're not on YouTube. So stuff you do offline still matters. So when he went off to Rumble and started doing all that clan stuff and all that sort of stuff, YouTube wasn't putting up with that because they're worried about their sponsors. If all their corporate sponsors that they look to run ads on YouTube see this sort of stuff, they're not gonna want to affiliate their advertisements with that content. So it's like they want you to get monetized so they can run these ads on your, through your videos, and on, and you know in agreement to you allowing them to do that, they give you money. They give you money for the revenue they generate through displaying these ads during your videos. But that, a lot of people are not a lot of corporate sponsors aren't going to feel safe running ads with people they know, with people they know who are known supremacists, or say certain things about people. It's not going to fly. So that's why they were deplatformed. HGT said Rumble's for the virgins. Anyway, we gotten highly off topic, guys, and unless someone's dropping the cash app, I'm getting off because I'm not going to answer these random questions. The original topic was, how far would you be willing to travel for a long distance relationship? Nick Ireland says mediocre tutorials and reviews is the best one in the Manosphere. He's all right. Um, I don't watch his videos as much because they're long winded. I've watched more of his stuff like on Instagram and Facebook, but the his long form videos that he does on YouTube just tend to be too long and drawn out for me. But he's a good guy. I don't like when he worked with just Pearly Things though. Like, it wasn't until Dennis Sperling called it out 2 years ago that you had basically everyone sucking at the teat of just Pearly Things, and Dennis Sperling called it out. He was like, why is everyone in the black manosphere bowing down to a white queen? He was like, I thought this was supposed to be the black manosphere, but yet you guys are all like hailing just Pearly Things as the next coming of Kevin Samuels. I'm like, yeah, that was crazy. And she was talking on things she had no background in. She, from her own confessions, is a rich white woman from the Midwest who's only like 22, like at the time. It's like she had no relevant experience in anything she was talking about that dealt with issues within black male spaces. But everyone was sitting there bending the knee to her, and even mediocre tutorials, he did some content with her, and they were even going to do like a at one time they were going to collaborate and do a like a I think it was like a dating show or something like that, and they ended that when he decided to break it off, when he was disappointed that she had brought on Nick Fuentes, and was saying how she mistreated her employees in the background, who are mostly like these British African people. So Chica says rest in peace, Cameron Samuels. Yeah. I'm gonna just time this one dude out because he's obviously having a conniption. Chica TC says trust funds. Chica says not sure long distance relationships are hard to maintain in my opinion. It's, yeah, they are hard, but the caveat is sometimes having a long distance relationship with someone who comes from a traditional community is is an acceptable trade off than dealing with women in your local community who aren't very dateable and aren't wifey material. Like I said, I'm from Baltimore, so I was willing to travel over 8,500 miles to meet my wife just to not date people living in my community. I wasn't attracted to them, and I didn't think they were good marriage material, and I don't like people in Baltimore generally, so it was an acceptable trade-off for me. Miss Nita says long distance relationships are not for everyone, but they can work. That's fair. I think that's fair. So anyway, guys, I was on an hour longer than I expected to be. Well, actually, an hour and a half longer than I expected to be. So I'm going to end this now, unless there's any last questions or comments. Like I said, the people I answered a few stray comments, but we got off on a tangent. But like I said, if people want to ask random stuff, they can drop a Cash App and we can do a whole live. Well, I can either answer it in the stream, or if they want like a whole conversation dedicated to that, if they drop a good enough amount on Cash App, we'll just do a whole live stream on it. Um, when I first started doing the live streaming, by the way, I was people would ask me questions. I would do live streams on it for free, and then they wouldn't even appear for the live stream to even talk about it. So now I won't do it unless like they're actually contributing, So because I think that's fair. Like I was doing it for free. Like people would say, "Well, what do you think about such and such?" And I was like, "Well, I'll do a live stream on it." And then they're not around. They was like, "Oh, wow, I was busy." Okay, I get it. You were busy. Well, from now on, I'm going to be busy unless you drop a cash app. So. Um, all right, guys. So Nick Iron says, "Good night, man. Got all the rest. Love your streams. It's always a pleasure. Great words. I appreciate it. Thank you, Nick." Custom says, "Good night." Miss Nito says, "Good night, everyone. It was fun." Chica, good night. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. I'm gonna go. But if you guys still have any other comments or questions about that or something else, as soon as the video ends, it gets uploaded, so you can leave any sort of like questions or comments in that comment section. Okay. But I appreciate the time with you guys. Way too late, so good thing I still have some coffee made up for tomorrow. See you later.